It's not Friday, it's Thursday, and you know what that means.
Yeah!
Welcome, everyone, to episode 358 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, The Effort Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
And I am the Brainless one. And we've had a very, very interesting week. Last week, we had talked about how Tony Khan got pile-driven on Dynamite the night before the draft, showed up and tried to sell the neck injury and everything. And since then, we've had him make some more remarks. We've had both nights of a WWE draft. Yep. We have a Backlash pay-per-view in a couple of days. We have all this stuff going on, but we felt like the best way possible to start the podcast this week was to actually do it on a lighter note. Kind of, sort of, darker note, whatever, however you perceive this.
I'm going to go with this is dark comedy. Dark comedy.
I only can explain this the best way possible. I have two words for you. It is Hulk Hogan. Now, I don't know where a lot of people get their news from down in Virginia or wherever they are located in the country or throughout the world. But here in Virginia, if you do happen to watch Fox 43, they have a show that follows called the 700 Club, which I had no idea really existed until I moved down here to Virginia. And they just so happened, we had it on. It was the first option for the news that we had picked. And it just so happens, I'm telling you, Jay, this is more in line with what he said than what he actually said. Because I took it as a sign when the 700 Club mentioned that the immortal Hulk Hogan was going to be on their show. A very, very Christian news channel program here in Virginia and throughout the world, in the country at least. And they're going to promote Hulk Hogan, who I have been calling the gift that keeps on giving every day. And I said, in all of my 41 years on this planet, I have never willingly wanted to watch that show. And then they finally hooked me. And you can bet that I actually tuned in just because Hulk Hogan was on. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't watch anything else. I have no idea what else they talked about. I was just waiting for the 24-inch pythons. The man who once upon a time told me to take my vitamins and say my prayers, to come out there and regurgitate whatever it is that's going to come out of his mouth and just sound like an even bigger fool than he already has. And boy, wouldn't you know who won the pony?
I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to eclipse the Hulk Hogan testimony in court against Gawker. I don't know. I mean, there's been stuff where, like, clearly he's trying to. I mean, last summer or last year, when he headlined Wembley Stadium with the kid with a certain odor, and like within all that, decided like, oh, the kid died right before SummerSlam. So me and Jimmy Hart wrote an album, and album went to the top of the charts, and all the money went to charity. like even when he said all that does not compete with the Gawker trial Hulk Hogan.
The fact that under oath he was trying to explain that Terry Bollea and Hulk Hogan had different sized penises will forever not be like greatest moments in human history of things said and recorded.
Yeah, Bobby Fish beating Abraham Lincoln in a wrestling match. I mean, that's another one. That time when Bobby Fish was at the pyramids, when they were, putting all the hieroglyphs on the walls and said, "No, that's not me. That is, though." I remember when that happened. I know it was 5,000 years ago, but I remember that.
They never mentioned of the fish that were in the hieroglyphics in the pyramids. They never mentioned that any of them had a beard. So we're not positive. It is very possible that he is in the actual pyramids. Because if there's a fish with a beard, that's Bobby Fish. And if it's a beard with if it's a fish with an incredible beard, then it's definitely Bobby Fish.
But back to the man
Hulk Hogan.
Now, like, as you can see the subtitle below, the Hulkster received a message from heaven. And this is not the Holy Spirit descending upon him and telling him something. No.
I just want to know, before I get into this, is this just as egregious as him partying with Jim Belushi after WrestleMania 2, Weekend at Bernie style? Is this what we're talking about here? Or is Hulk Hogan molding the pot and Roddy Piper comes behind him and whispers in his ear, it's okay. I am walking here with him.
It's not quite Jim Belushi after WrestleMania 2 because I mean Belushi was dead for like 4 years at that point. At least with this story, the Hot Rod was only dead a couple of days.
And he called Hulk Hogan and left him a message. I You know what, Jay? I try to give him the benefit of the doubt because I mention it every single time. I said, you know what? He's not going to do it this time. He's not going to go out there and make a complete ass out of himself because he's going to open his mouth and whatever happens, happens because of all the things Hulk Hogan is, he does not have a filter. And he doesn't think things through, or he does. I don't know. I have no way of explaining why Hulk Hogan is the way he is, but he comes out on a Christian television program and says he got a message from Roddy Piper 2 days after he died, telling him he was walking with God and it was okay. He was in heaven. I mean, I mean, what is wrong with this man? Is this CTE? Do we not? Did he take one too many chair shots to the head, or was Hulk Hogan one of those ones that never took a chair shot to the head? All right, brother, you can't hit me in the head with a chair, brother.
It's just like work for me, brother.
That's like when the Undertaker tombstoned me too hard, brother, and broke every vertebrae in my neck, brother.
And by the way, the Undertaker actually was not in the company. We've got that verified from Hogan last week. Undertaker was actually not in the company when that happened, so he could not have possibly broken his neck because it was Hogan who found the Undertaker, saw him wrestling down south and said, I got to get that dude in this movie Suburban Commando with me. I need another big dude to be one of these aliens that I'm going to fight against. And then I brought the Undertaker to Vince.
I need now every television program in this country to book something with Hulk Hogan. I don't care. ESPN, you could either have him on First Take with Stephen A. Smith, just because I can only imagine what he would say to Stephen A. Smith. You know what? The Weather Channel. Why not? Bring out Hulk Hogan. Have him do the weather. And then just give him a live microphone for 10 minutes because I'm certain he's going to say something stupid there. You know, bring them on MTV. Is there any like live shows on MTV, or am I just giving them the benefit of the doubt? You know what? Put them on that Rob Dyrdek, what is it, the Ridiculousness or something like that. There you go. Have them go on the Ridiculousness show and have Hogan. Oh, yeah, brother, I remember when I invented skateboarding. You know, this is what we need. We need Hulk Hogan on as many TV shows as humanly possible with a live microphone or a recorded one, because even some of these recorded ones would still play it, and just let him just talk. Just let him say whatever he wants to say.
The
Because
greatest storyteller ever, brother.
I have my bingo card of top 10 Hulk Hogan future lies that I want to hit before the end of 2024. And the more exposure that the Hulkster gets, the more likely that my list is actually going to have some truthful things to it. I'm pretty sure there's like at least one or two.
I'm telling you, we need to have his fully accurate representation of what happened when he saved that person from the car. and this, I mean, that's the police version of the story. We know that that's not official. It's not official until the Hulkster says so.
When do we get the story from Hulk Hogan that he was originally supposed to be in the Undertaker spot at WrestleMania 40, and he was supposed to be the one to take out The Rock as payback for The Rock beating him 22 years ago? Why hasn't that? I'm putting that on my list. Why hasn't that happened? Because it's inevitable. It's Hulk Hogan. Yeah, brother.
So, what's the free spot on the bingo card? Like, you know, just Hogan opening his mouth?
Basically. I mean, it's crazy because I'm surprised that hasn't happened. It's only a matter of time. He's going to go out there and say, I was supposed to be in the main event of WrestleMania 40, and I was supposed to be the one that took out The Rock to help Cody beat Roman Reigns for the championship, and it was supposed to be me taking the chair shot too, brother. But Seth was like, no, Hulkster, I got this for you.
Right.
That's inevitable. And what other things are going to come out? Like, he was going to say that he found Sensational Sherry. Is that going to be another one that Hulk Hogan's going to come up with? By the way, that was a tremendous, it was very well put together Dark Side of the Ring episode, but wow. That's the best way I could describe the Sensational Sherry thing.
I have to check it out. One of my coworkers was watching it and told me, he's like, some of the other stuff was dark, but like this is like something else. He was like, she has a kid. I'm like, what? I'm like, she has a kid?
Oh, yeah. All I am going to say is wow. And it was funny, too, because I saw on Twitter, like right before that episode aired, somebody had said that, is it just me or has the Dark Side of the Ring episodes felt kind of flat this season? And I went, oh, no. This is not going to end very well. And I still haven't watched the Sandman one yet either.
I would say that this year what they're doing is they're concentrating on single people and going one at a time, as opposed to like these mythological, legendary things that happened on the road or just crazy stories. Like, you know, they're just going person by person by person by person through it and just, you know, seeing that even the people that were at the top of the mountain, like, it was not great.
Right.
But once this current crop of shows finish its run, we are going to get the 4-part documentary, The Death of WCW.
Yeah.
And I know that there were folks out there concerned that this would be kind of like a WWE retelling of it. And it's like, if that's the case, we already have the rise and fall of WCW on the WWE network. We don't need to rehash that. According to Kevin Nash, he's like, no, this one's going to tell the real story. There's not going to be a WWE spin to it. And it's going to be done in conjunction with the people who do Dark Side of the Ring and $7 Productions with The Rock. So the same people who did Tales from the Territory are the same folks doing this. I expect it to be interesting viewing. It'll be, to me, I think it's going to be really difficult for them to try to put any new information out there. I mean, so many people have talked for so many years about what went on. The only thing that I found super intriguing as far as possibly new information is Bischoff sounds convinced that there was some sort of conspiracy going on where like all these crazy dominoes like fell into place that made it fall apart. Almost like somebody was wanting it to happen. I hope, you could get part of your bingo card filled if Hogan is part of this.
There's no way. Because there's already one person that I saw right before the podcast that's out there griping about the fact that they're doing this docuseries and they weren't a part of it. And that is one Nature Boy Ric Flair. And honestly, he is absolutely right.
Yeah.
He is the biggest star in WCW. I mean, for me, it's Sting. This is Sting. For Crockett, it's Ric Flair. For me, for WCW, it's Sting. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons I feel that way is because Ric Flair left, went on to become WWF champion. Yes, he came back, but Sting never left. I'd still say that, Flair, but anyway, Flair is not a part of this. And Flair's upset that he's a part of this. If there's two people that I really do not want to see a part of this whole thing for the WCW thing, it's Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan.
I'm surprised Vince Russo was not a name on your list there.
That goes without saying. I don't even have to mention that I don't want to hear him, because the conspiracy theory that they thought that somebody was trying to kind of lead to the downfall of WCW would make a lot of sense. Do we know why Vince Russo left WWF to go to WCW? Was it for money? Is that what they said?
So the stories I've heard over the years, bro. Because it actually was part of the Bash at the Beach 2000 finger poke of or Jeff Jarrett laying down in the ring, bro, episode. He more or less said that they started doing SmackDown, which doubled his workload, and Vince didn't want to pay him anymore. And I think he said he either was just about to have a child or just had a child and wanted to be home more, and Vince was more or less telling him no. And WCW is like, well, hey, you want to come down here? We'll pay you more, and you'll have full control. You're not going to have to worry about X, Y, or Z. But it came down to scheduling, and Vince, no, you need to be here all the time. I actually understand why Russo's like, I'm getting the hell out of here. You double my workload. You don't want to pay me more. And I've got a young family that I really should be around.
Right.
He actually made the right decision for himself. As much as he's a douchebag, he did the right thing. He has the right priorities.
I just can't see how they're going to do a 4-part series on the actual downfall of WCW when you can get it all out in 3 seconds. It's Vince Russo. That is what ruined WCW, and you can't tell me otherwise. Once he started coming out with all these stupid, gimmicky bullshit matches, people stopped tuning in. I'll tell you one thing that I'm glad that all that crap happened when it did. Because one thing that I am glad that I didn't get to have the chance to see is Vince Russo show up in a New York Giants uniform and helmet. Because I would have thrown up all over myself if I'd seen that. But exactly, he's got a joke.
It was everywhere.
And all the people in the crowd started getting sick. And all the people started throwing up all over each other. The worst day of my life. Mom's starting to like this kid. But I am really intrigued by this because I did like the Tales of the Territory just as much as I enjoyed the Dark Side of the Ring episodes. And honestly, The Rock has done good stuff with this. And if Kevin Nash is going to be a part of it, I want to get Kevin Nash's perspective because he's got what has he got to hide from this? Like he's got nothing to lose.
Right.
I'm curious to see who else they use in this thing. I'm telling you, Jay, they can't have Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. And I'm going to tell you this much. They can't have Ric Flair because he's already painted in a terrible light. Has he not figured it out? Why would these producers bring you in, Rick? They did an entire episode where you look like the biggest piece of shit. And you thought they were going to bring you in for a 4-part miniseries? Come on.
They would mock me, and they would call me freak.
Freak. But I'm excited to see this because you know me. I love my documentaries, and I love when documentaries about the stuff that I love, and I love professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a good one. I want to see what just because I'm curious to see because are they going to bring in Scott Norton? Are they going to bring in
DDP is definitely one of the people they talk to.
Perfect.
I'm trying to think of the other people I saw during definitely Kevin Nash. I'm going to guess they're probably going to use some vintage clips of Scott Hall and other people along the way. I bet they'll probably use some like file footage and or interviews from Ric Flair.
And they're going to bring in Jim Cornette, not to talk about WCW. All he's going to do is just talk about, I'm Jim Cornette, and just go, I've been in the wrestling business for 40 years where I was a photographer, one of the greatest managers of the greatest tag teams, the Midnight Express, and booker, promoter, and all the other stuff. And all he's going to do is just swing the racket, and he's just going to go through his whole spiel, and that's the only time we're going to see him in the 4 episodes.
And then he's like, and oh, by the way, I hate Vince Russo. Wait, doesn't he call him shit stain?
Shit stain.
Shit stain, yeah.
That's what I need. I need Cornette just swinging the tennis racket, just saying, telling everybody what his resume is. And it's much more impressive than Dave Meltzer sitting in his pile of papers in his office. And I've been a wrestling journalist for 40 years, and I never gave Kurt Angle a 5-star match. But, Will Ospreay is the greatest wrestler that has ever performed in North America, and he's from the United Kingdom and hasn't really wrestled here. Because I'm Dave Meltzer. I'm just as much of an empty-headed dumb fuck as Hangman Adam Page.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been going after a lot of AEW fans this week. It's been hell. I mean, it hasn't stopped. I can't understand. How could you keep defending these people? How could you tell me that this is good shit? This is awful. How are you going to tell me that CM Punk is mid? I mean, this is just ridiculous. Like, they've become like a cult. They've become everything that is wrong with professional wrestling. And it's like, you don't understand. You have to, be open to criticism. You can't just be like, okay, this is how how I feel about AEW and this stuff. And if anybody has a different opinion, what the hell? It's ridiculous. Because I don't like some of these people, so I have to agree with you. That's not how it works. It's ridiculous, Jay. I can't have a civilized conversation with any of them. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't happen. And it's funny because I have these interactions with people because I want to see if they come in and they want to talk to me about this on the podcast. If anybody would like to have a conversation with me that are pro AEW. I mean, we'd have to search through a lot of mom's basements to find these AEW fans to come out and have these conversations with us, and that's fine. But it's like, come on, it's ridiculous.
My mom.
You can't say a negative thing about Kenny. You can't say a negative thing about the Jacksons. You can't say a negative thing about Tony Khan. There's people out there that are defending Chris Jericho. I mean, why? What is the point of this? Did Vince McMahon hurt? I'm sorry. The dastardly Voldemort. Did he damage you so much with the product that you were witnessing that you're just going to go and agree with whatever the other promotion is providing? You're going to tell me that when Jon Moxley has the skewer sticking out of his head, looking like a really horribly maintained chia pet, and you're going to tell me this is good? You're going to tell me a guy who's getting in the ring and gets hit with not 1, not 2, but 7 consecutive Canadian destroyers from an inanimate object and still kicks out at 2? And tell me this is good professional wrestling? Where 2 douchebags are super kicking everybody and that's all they do, and then they have the exploding sneaker, and that doesn't even get a 3 count? I mean, this is ridiculous. You had a poor girl in a wrestling match with barbed wire on a board, and it took you 7 minutes to get her out. This is minor league stuff here. And then, on top of it, you all have the audacity to defend these people. Fine. But why is Tony Khan going on the NFL Network and comparing WWE to Harvey Weinstein? And it's like, this is okay. How is this okay? How is this okay? Harvey Weinstein is a horrible, horrible, terrible man. I get it. Vince is a horrible, horrible, terrible man himself. I'm not disputing that. But to call an entire company that's stupid. I've kind of let it simmer a little bit, Jay. And and I was gonna give Tony the benefit of the doubt because cocaine is a hell of a drug. but now that they're coming out and they're defending this clown shoes fuck, this coked out, overprivileged Mark, who is literally blowing millions and millions of dollars of his dad's money so that he can play with real life action figures, putting people's livelihoods in his hands, with a laundry list of wrestlers. You know why they have a deep roster? You know why there's like 137,000 wrestlers on their roster? Because 40% of them are hurt. He needs to keep turning the wheel because that's all that is, because they're not safe. And then they give us this shit with the Young Bucks, and they're trying to tell us the Jungle Boy is a star? I cannot fathom it anymore. I apologize that I'm going off. I am venting to the fans of the effing March, where the Brainless one has just had enough with AEW fans. It is just getting out of hand. For years, I have been saying the worst type of people in this world is this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, y'all make Cowboy fans look tolerable. I would rather have a Yankee fan tell me about all 27 World Series championships that they have won, whether they have seen all of them or not, than to have to listen to you AEW fans tell me that I need to sit here and I need to be more accepting of professional wrestling because I've never seen, wrestling outside of WWE. And that's not the point.
And it's not true.
And it's not true as well. Because I've watched WCW, I've watched ECW, I've watched Lucha Underground. And like
New
I said,
Japan.
one of the luxuries I had with the sports package that I had on YouTube TV was the fact that I got to watch a lot of the stuff from New Japan. I have a greater appreciation for the Ricochet and the guy from Jacket Time and Will Ospreay, because I got to watch a bunch of Will Ospreay. I got to watch Okada too, Jay White. I know what I'm talking about. AEW is not it. Y'all are backing the wrong horse. And the fact that you are the ones that are going out there, I'm convinced of this too, Jen. You're the ones that are going out there and having this negative directive towards Cody Rhodes as a champion. He hasn't even been champion for a month yet. And you're going to oh, well, Swerve Strickland has already defended the title 3 times since he won the championship. Swerve won the championship, became the first African-American to win the world championship in AEW, and you don't even let him have his moment? You don't even give him a microphone to share and talk about how great of a moment this is? Instead, you give him a match against Kyle fucking Fletcher? But you're going to give the fucking EVPs all the time in the world to spew their freaking negative agenda? So we can watch, we get to see Swerve Strickland fight Kyle Fletcher, but we also had to watch Tony Khan eat a freaking stupid Meltzer thing from the douchebags. While poor Okada sat there and watched with his thumbs down. Yeah, I'd be giving a thumbs down too, Okada, if I were you. You were much better off in New Japan. You would have been better off in Impact. And they only had 500 people buy their last pay-per-view. It's getting out of hand. It is so poorly run. And yet, these fans are the ones like, oh, you can't have a differing opinion from, like, oh, if you don't think, if you don't like what we like over there, then you don't know wrestling.
All right. Chris Brown is asking, after Edge signed with AEW, is it any wonder why any major former WWE stars have gone over there? Someone suggested it's two things: cash, which Tony has a shitload of, and creative, which Tony is as creative as a pile of vomit in front of a toilet.
Thanks, guys.
From someone who got wasted on a bottle of Hennessy.
Oof. That's harsh.
Well, yeah. Well, I would just say that, if you're somebody like Adam Edge, or you're somebody like Christian, who was in WWE system for a long time, or even somebody like Nick Nemeth in the WWE system for a while, and you don't want that overarching, overprotective, over whatever the former regime was doing to you. If you want to be free of that, AEW is a great place. The inmates run the asylum, but you have the people who are professionals like Edge, who's probably having the time of his life. I bet Christian is too, having the time of his life, enjoying the creative freedom, doing what he wants to do. It's all the other chaos around them that's screwed up. They do great.
Like I've said, not everything about AEW is bad. I love FTR. I love Danhausen. I'm going to tell you this much. I saw a clip where Orange Cassidy was talking to Don Callis, and the possibilities of an Orange Cassidy heel turn. Are you shitting me? That intrigues me. Stuff like that intrigues me. I don't give a shit what Jungle Boy is doing. I don't care. I don't care what the Young Bucks are doing. I don't care. I don't care about Adam Page. I could give two shits about Kenny Omega. There's a lot of it I could really, anything that it has any of that stench on it, I don't want anything to do with it. And I'm including Moxley and Jericho in that. And that's hard for me to say considering Chris Jericho's still in my Rushmore. But he's just as toxic. Why is Chris Jericho the FTW champion? How come he's winning a championship that like three people like recognize? Like more people recognize the $1 million title than the FTW championship. And that's not a slight on Taz. I love the hell out of Taz. But why is Chris Jericho winning championships when the fans are chanting and telling him to retire? But you're telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about.
By the way, those are the fans that are AEW fans.
Yes.
Telling him to retire.
Not WWE fans. But when the so-called E-drones do this, that I've been called numerous times, and I've been called a mark, and a bunch of other things, and yes, I am a mark, and I know I'm a mark.
That's true.
I'm looking at the name right there that says I'm a mark, and I'm like, yeah, I am a mark. What do you want me to tell you? I declare it, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm a mark. My whole thing is, how are you going to keep defending this company? Because if I'm not mistaken, didn't they just implement the rankings that they got rid of, that they brought in? They're doing the thing with the rankings, like the Big Show with the face and the heel turns. Didn't they just bring back the rankings?
Something like that.
And so if that's the case, explain to me how in the rankings that a guy who lost the mid-card championship, a championship that he never won in the first place,
even though he's still a GOAT.
Even though he's still a GOAT, and he is one of the two best heels in the business right now. Candice LeRae is really sneaking up right now. I just want to know, how is Christian Cage the #1 contender for Swerve Strickland's World heavyweight championship when I can guarantee you right now he's not number one in the power rankings.
Right.
Because I can guarantee you this. Hangman Adam Page is somewhere near the top. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't know what the rankings are because I don't think they really matter. But you're going to keep flip-flopping the way you do this? Like, just make up your mind and just... And this is for the Double or Nothing. This was their first pay-per-view. This is basically now their Starrcade in WrestleMania. And you're going to give us Swerve versus Christian Cage? Christian Cage, who just lost a blood feud to Adam Edge, for the TNT Championship? This is no different. This is no different than Roman Reigns dropping the Intercontinental Championship to The Miz and then getting one of the 6 pods in the Elimination Chamber, waiting for Braun Strowman to eliminate the other 4 people. Ooh. Spear, Superman punch, 1, 2, 3. The Monster Among Men is gone.
And he's back.
I'm so happy about that. I'm going to tell you this much. I loved the hell out of Monday Night Raw. And I've been saying this a lot, and I cannot believe those words are actually coming out of my mouth. Because if you had told me years ago when we first started doing this podcast that those words are going to come out of my mouth, I would say, Jay, you and I both need to stop drinking Colt 45. Because it's not going to happen. But here we are. Almost 8 years later.
Yeah.
And I am enjoying the hell out of Monday Night Raw. And really, there's only one person to thank for this. Janelle Grant. We no longer have the Dastardly Voldemort and his stupid booking decisions, not seeing anything in Gunther, who, by the way, said, yeah, I didn't see it in the old regime. He goes, the other guy just didn't get it. He goes, I feel a lot better about being here in WWE. So now we know why it took Gunther forever to get to WWE.
Yeah.
We actually have LA Knight instead of him probably being in AEW as, I don't know, a New York Knight.
Yeah.
Let me not talk to you. Yeah, dummy. That's what I need. This is why Vince being out is good. Because ever since Triple H has taken over, WWE has gotten so much better. The product itself has gotten better. Now that Bucky Beaver's damn shit is out of there, the presentation of WWE has gotten better. Everything about WWE has gotten better to the point where I actually look forward to watching Monday Night Raw every week.
Tim sent me Effin Marks Hall of Famer, Tim, sent me a clip, and it showed Sami Zayn's entrance with Bucky Beaver behind the scenes, running things in the new regime. During Zayn's entrance, I believe, during the Bucky Beaver era, there were 40 shots. 40 from when he came out to when he got to the ring. New regime, I think it was like 12.
That one he had in Montreal on Raw, where he came in through the crowd. I love that. That is one of my all-time favorite entrances outside of WrestleMania. I love that. I love everything they've been presenting him perfectly in this new regime. And I don't know when his contract's up, but I highly doubt he's leaving because he's not going to be Sami Zayn. Although if he went to AEW and they somehow, some way brought El Generico back, okay, we might talk. We might talk. Doesn't mean I'm going to be fully vested. But I'd rather see Sami Zayn in WWE than El Generico in AEW.
Yeah.
Now his best friend, on the other hand, I would rather see Kevin Steen in AEW than see Captain Cupcake in WWE, but that's because, animosity.
Right.
Him and Cassius Ohno in the catering department, and they just brought in a fresh delivery of cupcakes, and then the cookies come in, and here comes Pac.
The Hostess Heroes I mean, that could be a great faction in AEW.
They need Nick Camaretto in there too, though.
Okay.
Because he's kind of a big, beefy dude. And I can't think of anybody else that I don't think there are people like the Kevin Owenses and the Cassius Ono. I mean, there's not really many like the Cassius Onos. The only person I can think of off the top of my head that's even remotely close to Cassius Ono is Vince Neil.
Yes.
But I don't think. I mean,
remember when he was in the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movie?
Yeah.
I didn't see it for years, and then all of a sudden I was like, "Hey, isn't that Vince Neil?"
The abominable snow Neil.
He was frightening. Frightening.
The only thing that thing was missing was the Batman shirt.
If he had the Batman shirt on, I mean, he. Whew.
Oh,
who are
funny.
you? I'm Batman.
I'm Vince Neil. I'm on my way. Yeah, that's Vince Neil. But yeah, honestly though, Jay, I have really enjoyed everything about Raw. And one of the things, please tell me I have something on here that's about Raw. One of the things I did like about Raw this week was they brought in Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
For the WWE draft. And they made him a heel in Kansas City. Given Logan Paul his 3 Super Bowl rings. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not giving Logan Paul. I can't think of 3 of anything I own that I would give Logan Paul. Except for maybe like 3 fists to the face. But that whole thing, that with Jey Uso and everything, and that's how they use Braun Strowman to come back. Strowman going and like getting and confronting Patrick Mahomes, his offensive linemen standing up there with their championship belts that they have over their shoulders. I loved every second of that.
And when Braun said, maybe next time you need to bring some bigger guys out here. I loved when he said that.
Your move, Tony Khan. You might have more the neck break. I was like, because that was one thing that was kind of like festering in the back of my brain was like, what is WWE going to do to counteract Tony Khan showing up on the draft with a neck brace after eating a Meltzer driver from the douchebag boys? What is WWE going to do? Oh, I know.
That's their official name?
I haven't figured out yet. I might do a vote to see what the official name of the dipshits or whatever I'm going to call the yucks, or maybe I'll let everybody bring in their suggestions of what we are going to refer to the Young Bucks as going forward. I am open to all suggestions, especially the negative ones.
In the chat, Chris Brown did bring up Taz and said Taz says that he needs to have both shoulders and knees replaced. And it's not from a career of taking bumps. It's from the stressful workouts that he put his body through.
He still has one of the, pound for pound, one of the greatest suplexers I've ever seen. I have the utmost respect for Taz. For a guy his size and the fact that he was as strong as he was, he was that was a bad man. And I feel bad for him because I've actually always enjoyed Taz as a performer. He's grown on me a lot as a commentator, but I was always a fan of the Taz.
Batman is a bad man too.
Yes, he is. Batman. You take my monster.
My monster.
We did it in an order that would surprise you. Ass mouth badge. Oh, man. Yeah, that is unfortunate for Taz about the shoulders and the knees replacements. That's just unfortunate. Like I said, he was one of the baddest dudes in freaking ECW, considering that was a company that had New Jack in it.
Right.
So,
speaking of somebody who's going to need future surgeries, I think this was an accidental bump this time, but one Darby Allin got hit by a bus.
That's funny. I can knock that one off too. I can't believe I had that in my notes. Darby Allin hit by bus.
And this time it wasn't an accident. This was not Darby Allin trying to do some of the stupid things he does. Darby Allin, the man who will probably be the sad face you see in 25 years at a wrestling convention because he can't walk anymore.
No, he won't.
Hey, live and let live. But, dude, I mean, you got a broken foot from the stuff you did in Sting's last match. Good for you going all out. See what I did there?
I saw what you did there.
For his last match. I appreciate the respect you have for him, but it's like made me think of that scene with Dustin Hoffman crossing the street in New York City, and he's like, "I'm walking here." Except for Darby Allin didn't have that happen. He just got hit by a bus. And you know what? There are cameras everywhere. When is the footage going to come out?
Right out, they got to wait to find out when the Bucks can show it to everybody and say, "This is what happens."
I bet the bus sold the bump better than John Cena sold the DDT outside the ring at SummerSlam 2010.
They're going to do the thing where the AGI, where it's going to be like Jungle Boy was the one driving the bus and he's going after the pillars. And that the reason MJF hasn't had his surgery, we haven't seen him, is because Jungle Boy was the one that performed the surgery. And whatever reason, Sammy Guevara, no, we don't really need. He's not a threat. I mean, neither is Jungle Jerk, but we saw the footage of that and how that went. I just want to put this out there, though. I am not a religious man by any means. Okay? So if I come out and say that I'm going to go climb Mount Everest, and then God's like, "Listen, I'm going to break your foot so you can't go when you were going to say you were going to go," okay, I would take that as my sign. Like, maybe I shouldn't do this. No, you're like, "No, I'm just going to wait till my foot heals and then I'm going to go climb Mount Everest." Well, clearly, that message wasn't loud enough for you, Darby Allin. Because if I had the situation where I broke my foot right before I was going to climb Mount Everest, and that's my sign to not go, and I don't take that sign, getting hit by the bus would be my sign to not go. But I'm sure you're going to be like, "I'm going to heal up my face and my nose and my foot and whatever other catastrophes I'm going to have, and I'm still going to have Tony Hawk do his signature move on my injured face, just like I have him do it on my injured foot."
I'm convinced we might get to see Darby Allin at the Jackalope Festival in Virginia Beach in like a month. And he's probably going to do something stupid.
Jay, he's not going to be that face 25 years from now at the wrestling conventions, and people are like, "Holy shit, there's that Darby Allin guy." He was that skateboarding dude who did the shit with Sting, right? Because he's not going to be there. He's just going to be a frozen carcass on Mount Everest if he doesn't take the hint. I would rather Darby Allin in 25 years be the dude sitting at the wrestling convention trying to sell autographs looking like Virgil. Rip.
Or the juicer.
Yes.
Rip.
Then have him.
Juicer, by the way.
Right. Yeah?
Yeah.
Or over the fact that he could be dead. You gotta take it like that. I'm sorry. There's your message. If he says he's going to climb the mountain after this, what is it going to take to get him to not climb this mountain? To put two and two together and say, "Okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this." If you can't even cross the street, Darby Allin, what makes you think you're going to scale this mountain? I'm just saying.
They would mock me, and they would call me freak.
I just can't fathom. And I'm telling you, this is exactly what it be. Because all right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You proved me on this one. The bus was enough of a message for me. And I saw the pictures. I'm like, wow, he looks not as bad as I thought he was going to look like for somebody who got hit by a bus. I was like, was it an actual, like, a city bus, or did Jerome Bettis, like, plow through him? Because that's what it looked like. It looked like he was standing there and Jerome Bettis was trying to score a touchdown and then ran over Darby Allin. I mean, he looked like hell, but man, it did not look like he got hit by a bus.
I wonder how, clearly he put his chin up when he took the bump. Because he should have got a concussion, too. It's like, he had to get hit in the nose.
Yep. I can't. That's one of those things. That's one of those headlines that you have to read it a second time because it's not as believable the first time you read it. Like, did I really just read that Darby Allin got hit by a bus and everything's okay? It's not like professional wrestler Darby Allin, 31, passed away after getting hit by a city bus. It's just like, oh, Darby Allin got hit by a bus. Nonchalant. Don't forget to watch AEW Dynamite this Wednesday. Thanks, guys.
Chris Brown begs the question what Darby Allin was thinking just before he got hit.
Should I climb up Mount Everest? Now, is this a situation like with Bobby Heenan, with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, that maybe it was Jungle Boy who pushed him in front of the bus, but Bobby Heenan saying that, it was Darby Allin that threw himself in front of the bus?
Could be.
Are they going to turn this into a storyline too?
It should be.
That's when we're going to get you asked when we're going to get the footage. That's when we're going to get the footage. The Young Bucks 3 weeks from now and be like, see, this is what happens when you get people to chant for CM Punk. And then it's going to show Darby Allin crossing the street in New York and wham, getting hit by Jerome Bettis. And then they're going to show Jungle Boy, like they're going to CGI him into the thing and it's going to look like Jungle Boy pushed him in front of the bus.
That works.
I'm telling you, they're going to somehow, some way, they're going to find a way to turn this into a storyline because they do all this other stupid shit that they shouldn't be showing on national television on their primetime spot when they're barely getting over 700,000. A week after they couldn't even break 700,000. A week after they had their lowest rating in Dynamite history and they only did 20,000 better. And we're not going to count all the people that are, the Sheldon Cooper fans who for whatever reason forget to, turn off that garbage before. And they're like, oh, what is this? Again, yes, I would understand as somebody who has watched countless episodes of The Big Bang Theory. If I had to turn it on and the first thing I saw were these two douchebag super kicking people with exploding sneakers, yeah, I would never watch it either.
Yeah.
Or as Cornette would say, you lead off with the company mascot pockets. I don't feel the same way about Orange Cassidy as Mr. Cornette does. I will tell you that much. I do appreciate Orange Cassidy, and I am intrigued to see what happens, and I can't wait to see the clips as they get posted on social media days after Dynamite when they do whatever they're going to do with Orange Cassidy. Because I will not be one of those 647,000 people who will tune in on Wednesday to watch an embarrassment of professional wrestling. Edge is sad now. I'm glad he's enjoying himself, and I hope he's having a great run. I'm happy for him. It's not the same, man. Edge is a WWE guy, and it just seems weird. Superstar. It just seems weird with him in AEW, and he's looking a little old. I really have no room to talk because I have more gray hairs every time I look in the mirror, so that's fine.
So you did bring up MJF. MJF, who has been on the shelf since the new year and was trying to rehab his shoulder instead of going under the knife. And rehab did not work. And it seems like MJF will be away from our television for quite a while longer. He showed up recently at an appearance in a sling. So don't expect MJF to save Tony Khan and AEW anytime soon.
If he's even signed. Have we even gotten a confirmation that he's actually re-signed with the company? Because his contract technically expired January 1st.
And he is not on the website anymore.
He didn't show up at the Rumble. He didn't show up at WrestleMania. Is he just going to sit out the year? get healthy, and then he's the free agency, the biggest free agency that he hyped up for years. The hottest free agent in the history of professional wrestling is going to hit the open market in 2024. And instead, what we have gotten is a Mercedes getting well overpaid by AEW.
Mm.
And we got Tama Tonga, who's made more of an impact in WWE in his short stint than both Will Ospreay and Okada have done in AEW combined.
I don't know if I agree with that, but
Oh, come on. What has Okada done besides play tiddlywinks with the Young Bucks? He hasn't done
that's
shit.
something. That's
What
something. And he played tiddlywinks with Kenny on yesterday, right?
I don't even know. I don't watch that crap. Why am I going to watch that embarrassment of professional wrestling? I got better stuff to do on a Wednesday. I can listen to Susan Waldman talk about nothing.
Roger Clemens.
Oh my God, Roger Clemens. I you know what? I could have put the Yankees game on if I really wanted to watch something on Wednesday.
Well, you know Susan.
You're gonna miss John Sterling.
So as much as there are some things with AEW that you clearly are not a fan of, how do you feel about them signing Camille, former NWA champion?
They're doing Toni Storm versus Serena Deeb for the AEW Women's Championship at Double or Nothing. What have they done with Britt Baker in the last year?
I saw a list alleging that she is injured right now.
She's been out for over a year. After she's been out for that long, considering she was just complaining about the fact that the guys get all this TV time and she didn't. And she's an OG, and she is an OG. I will actually defend Britt Baker. And she's just magically injured now?
Allegedly. She took on Dr. Isaac Yankum's patients, and Dr. Yankum was not happy. And I heard made an appearance at her practice.
If she hits people with the Mr. Krabs line, like, Mr. Krabs, why did you do this? Money. Then fine. I get it. You got paid by AEW to go there and be underutilized. Congratulations. What has Deonna Purrazzo done since she signed with AEW?
Not much.
What has the expensive Mercedes done since she signed with AEW?
She's not even cleared to compete. Great signing, Tony.
That's like the Red Sox signing JD Drew.
They did win a World Series championship with him.
In spite of him.
He almost carried them to a second one in a row.
Uh-huh. And then they realized it was JD Drew. The real-life Nuke Lelouch. All I'm going to say is I'm happy for Camille because if this is what she wants, then so be it. She probably wants the easier schedule, just like Will Ospreay does. And I understand. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But don't go over there and say, like, oh, I'm going to change things in AEW. You know you're not. That man does not care about women's wrestling. His first ever AEW Women's Championship match was between 92-pound Riho and Nyla Rose. Can anybody name me, like, Jade Cargill was the biggest star they had in the women's division, and they totally they fumbled that. And we're going to see it on Saturday, too. Because she's not walking out of there without championship gold on Saturday. And we'll get into those predictions later on in the podcast.
It's not a prediction. It's a spoiler.
It's a spoiler. I've looked at it, and it's like, at first it looked like, no, why would anybody want to go back to WWE? Look at Shawn Spears. He wasn't getting utilized. He's losing to everybody in NXT. Do you think he cares? No, because he's getting utilized. He's going out there and wrestling. He's putting the younger guys over. He's doing good things. Look Look at Brian Pillman Jr. Lexis King is getting wins in NXT. They got a lot of the girls. I didn't realize how many of the girls they have down in NXT that were part of AEW. Because I want to say the girl Kiana James that just got called up on Raw or SmackDown, whatever it was. I know she got drafted to Raw. That they came up from NXT. They were high on her. She was performing on Dark. They have a couple other girls down there that they got. I know that's where they got Cora Jade. The girl that used to dress up in the cowboy getup. She was from AEW. They got a lot of their talent that you're gonna be seeing a lot of them. A lot of them are gonna be making impacts.
Man.
I mean, look at this. Jade Cargill is about to fight for the Women's Tag Team Championship. I know that on the grand scheme of things, this is no different than I don't even know what the shittiest title, the Ring of Honor Women's Championship, being wrestled in AEW. But she's in a better spot than she was in AEW. She got the proper training. She wasn't going to advance. That's the problem. That's why you have people like Sky Blue who was taking bumps, like I said earlier in the podcast, where there was barbed wire on a board and she got slammed into it. And then she got stuck in there for 7 minutes. 7 minutes in barbed wire. Does that sound fun? When you don't have these people who are properly trained to take these bumps, a lot of these people who are not properly trained to be in-ring competitors. It was funny because I woke up this morning to a tweet that said R.I.P. Samoa Joe. And it was from one of the dipshits from Private Party. And I was like, what the hell is this? And they did some stupid shit. I don't know what the hell it was. And then Samoa Joe beat the shit out of the dude on Dynamite last night. And I said, I'm glad, because Samoa Joe does two things. He beats the shit out of people and he sells Samoan cookies.
Yes.
And it got me thinking to the early days of AEW. When they had that tag team tournament, when they brought in the guys from Private Party. And they were like, oh, these are the guys who were trained by the Young Bucks. They're the future of tag team wrestling. Well, here we are about 5 years later. What the fuck have those two done? What have the Pillars done? They announced the 5 Pillars 5 years ago. Jungle Boy, MJF, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara. I'm gonna exclude MJF from this equation because MJF is basically a Lamborghini in a trailer park. Especially amongst those Pillars. Except one of them's like a 98 Honda Civic that just gets the shit beat out of it, and that's Darby Allin. But think about this. They were calling them the Pillars. Darby Allin is I'm not even going to go into it about Darby Allin. I like Darby Allin, and I just can't believe he's doing what he's doing. Sammy Guevara has been the most suspended person in AEW history. Not CM Punk. I was going to say, not in total time. I was talking about number of suspensions. Nobody has been suspended more than Sammy Guevara has in AEW. MJF is a stud. MJF is he's the biggest star. I'm sorry, he's the biggest star in wrestling that's not named Gunther or Cody Rhodes. And then you have, like I said, and then you have Jungle Boy. What has Jungle Boy done in those 5 years? Has he progressed? No. He's having fun with Dino Man, getting exploited by Christian. Christian became a bigger star walking into that place than Jungle Boy was, and Jungle Boy's an OG. Jungle Boy has been there so long. He was part of Chris Jericho's entrance at Double or Nothing. And what has he done? He cost them their biggest star. He goes to conventions that he's supposed to help promote the company and then makes children not want to become professional wrestlers because of his attitude and the way he answers these questions and how he handles himself. He's an ass. He's pretentious. He's a pretentious twat waffle. My God, I figured it out. Jungle Boy is the Bret Hall of AEW. Not Brett Hall, who's in my Rushmore of hockey players. I love that man.
Gloria!
Gloria, I think I got your number. I'm talking about the pretentious twat waffle that works for one of the TV stations down in we'll call it the DMV, between DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I'll even throw North Carolina in there too. And if you saw him and you saw the picture of him, you would understand, man, that dude does look like a pretentious twat waffle. And believe me, the picture does him every bit of justice that it could. But the kid he's a privileged brat. I'm sorry. I have never, and I've said this to a bunch of people before, and I've just said it just because they pissed me off and all this stuff. I have never wanted anybody, if I could go back in time and tell somebody to put a rubber on it at any point, just once, I could do it, it's Luke Perry. I would make sure that little gremlin was never born. Because he has done absolutely, Okay, I'm going to stop. That kid has done absolutely nothing for AEW. The fact that piece of shit has a 5-star match and Kurt Angle doesn't is just blasphemous. The fact that shit demon with his tag team partner, the dinosaur, the non-dancing dinosaur, have a 5-star match, and Randy Savage.
It's the Dino Man.
The non-dancing Dino Man. Kill Switch. And what was it? Nick Wayne? Oh, that's such a terrible faction. Thank goodness it has Christian, or else it would just be a freaking bunch of bums. Might as well just go form themselves in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Where the bums are. Ugh.
Yeah. Wait.
But the whole thing with Camille, though, to go back to the whole Camille brick house, right?
Camille, yeah.
She's going to AEW. And it's like, what have you seen from the product that makes you want to go there and say, okay, they're going to do something good? Because, quite frankly, you're walking in there and you're basically the new Jade Cargill. Because you're big, you're muscular, and you look like you could slam a whole bunch of people. Is that what your new role is going to be? Are you going to be like the Ryback? Okay, let's be real. If Camille was the Ryback, I would actually tune in to watch her matches, especially if she wrestled just like the Ryback. Just not a piece of shit like the Ryback.
Right.
I'm sorry, Jay. Nothing that Tony Khan has done in the nearly 5 years that AEW has been up and running has given me any faith to believe that he's going to do the right thing with the women's division. I just don't see it. It's not feasibly possible. I don't get why she did it. If it's clearly because of the schedule, so be it. But you say it's that, and because you want the money. It's not because you don't want to go wrestle. You don't want to wrestle WrestleMania, clearly. And you want to be used 1 week, and then 6 weeks later, you're wondering why the person who's losing they're the TBS championship. The person losing the TBS championship is getting an AEW Women's Championship match less than a month after losing the TNT or TBS championship match. Ruby Soho, who's now having a kid with Angelo Parker. That's the most random couple in the history of professional wrestling. I don't care what anybody tells me. And that says a lot because the other dancing Emma used to date Zack Ryder. He definitely upgraded. And I'm going to still feel that way.
On that note, have you gone onto the WWE website and watched the videos of the various superstars trying macaroons before they go over to France? Because Chelsea Green plays quite the role in that.
I have not seen that. I did see the clip of the wrestlers trying to speak French, and Chelsea Green, because they were asking her, because they were giving all the wrestling names in French, and everybody was trying to guess it, and she did all right. Kudos to Xavier Woods for I'm convinced that Xavier Woods actually speaks French because he knew everything, and I'm like, okay, that's impressive.
He's a smart dude. He has his doctorate in something. I forget what it is.
He's
not thugonomics.
He's not. Scott Steiner, who has an actual doctorate in mathematics.
Happy 16th birthday to the greatest promo possibly of all time.
I to this day, I have never been more impressed with the immaculate math equation that he put together. It was right. I've tried to do the problem at least 7 or 8 times, and I'm like, it's how is it possible that he's actually? How is it possible that he cuts a promo where he absolutely obliterates the English language, kind of like I do, but yet still gets all the math stuff like I can't? Are you telling me that I would actually be better at the math if I had gone to the University of Michigan, just like Professor Scott Steiner? Because the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at sacrifice, Senor Joe?
Some more numbers that don't lie and spell possible disaster. Is it DAZN or is it Dazin? Anyway, television company that was hosting AEW stuff in many countries quietly at the end of 2023 dropped them. They had signed a multi-year deal with them. And a year into it, they're like, they were not doing the numbers that they had hoped and they had projected for them, whether it was for Dark, whether it was for Rampage, and even for the premium live events, aka pay-per-views. They said that they only reached their mark a time or two. And that, I mean, if you're trying to grow and like, hey, maybe you're not growing in the United States, but you could grow outside of the United States, maybe, you know, different parts of the world like the thing you're doing. Apparently not according to Dazin.
My favorite part was I was reading online about how WB is going to be losing like TNT is going to be losing the NBA playoffs, I think, after this season. And then there's Dave Meltzer going, well, this could go 2 ways for AEW. Now that there's not that, there's going to be a premium for something to be on television for TNT during that time period. Yes, I'm sure that TNT is going to want AEW going up against the NBA playoffs on Wednesday nights starting next year.
Well, I mean,
I'm sure of it.
For AEW, thank God that the NBA playoffs are only a couple of months and not 12 months of the year.
True. My other point to this was he was like, well, that's just, there's something open for like some sports. However, I'm like, here we go. He's already going to backtrack without even, finishing his statement. However, with the NBA leaving TNT, that could be less money to go around, so it could be less money for AEW. I'm like, what is it? Is the NBA leaving TNT for more money going to bring more money to AEW, or is it going to cause them their deal? And I honestly don't see any program or network going out there and saying, here, I need to have this. It's not like these companies are banging down the door for WWE either. Okay. All right.
They got a shit ton of money from Netflix. They got a shit ton of money from NBC Universal. And oh, by the way, the Cock is going to be charging people $2 more starting in July. A lot of this has to do with the Olympics. But, WWE Network in the United States is on Peacock. And they went up by $1, I think it was last year, and now they're going up by another $2 this year. So within about a little over a year, they have put the prices up like 70%. But the thing is, compared to 10 years ago, paying $50 to $60 for a pay-per-view, all right, I'll pay $7 a month, $8 a month.
I'll pay $8 a month just for Ron Swanson. the WWE pay-per-views is an extra bonus for me. Because as far as I'm concerned, that's what I'm paying my $8 for Ronald Ulysses Swanson. And my bonus is I get a free pay-per-view every month.
Still, my favorite episode is when he's in Scotland and he reads Keach at the top of that hill as he's drinking scotch. And he's like, why would she think I'd want to read this? As he's like crying, as he's drinking his scotch on the Scottish countryside.
The one with his birthday is still my all-time favorite. When she finds out what his birthday is and she basically terrorizes him to the point where he's sleeping in the office. And she has everybody just mess with him. That's one of my favorite. That is my favorite episode.
Is that the one where she installed the door closer for him?
No, that was for one of the. Why do I know this off the top of my head? No, that was one of the Christmas presents.
Okay.
Every year I give everybody a crisp $20 bill and a handshake. And she always comes up with something thoughtful. She outdid herself this year, and he clicks the button and the door's shut. That's the one where at the end he thinks there's going to be a giant party, but it ends up being him in a locked up room with security with a steak and bacon and all the Western movies and scotch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's also the episode where they did the wiffle ball with the other town, Eagleton. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But I mean, honestly, I'm not that upset. I'm not that surprised either because it's still $8 a month. It's not that big of a deal. I saw it and I said, okay, what does this mean? An extra $2? Oh, darn. I have to pay $8 a month for this. That's fine.
It's fine.
It's just, and maybe you're right, me saying that about WWE having a hard time with the TV networks. It's like, I half expected ESPN to bend over backwards and try to shove them up their ass too, but I guess not. I just don't see it. Not when you have a company. Yes, I understand that their whole plan was we were hoping for 500,000 to start the thing, and then you shot your load and you got over 1 million people to start, and it's just gradually gotten less and less and less and less. At the end of the day, when you're running a business, especially when you're on television, your main goal and your main objective is to grow your audience.
Yeah.
The biggest number that you have popped that was not solely responsible for Team Sheldon Cooper was a spot that you did where the guy who you fired, who now works for the competitor that you've been calling the competitor, came out and made one of your wrestlers look like a fool on national television while your so-called EVPs were playing it on TV. Tony doesn't realize that at some point, yes, Daddy's got all this money, but if you don't have a TV contract, you're not going to be able to subject these people to that nonsensical bullshit that you call professional wrestling, that your stars call art.
I come back to when it was one show he booked really well. Now that he's got 5,000 shows that he's booking, he's a consultant for his dad on the Jaguars. He's a consultant and owner for the football team over in England. He's just stretched too thin. He's stretched thinner than what Vince was when Vince refused to relinquish any power to anybody. I mean, there's a story out there where Vince had brought in Bill Watts to run the show. He brought in Bill Watts to run the show for a few weeks and more or less told Bill Watts, hey, this is the smoothest this thing's ever run. This is great. And then after a few weeks, Vince realized, you know what? I really like running the show. Even though he apparently realized, oh, the show's running smoother than when I'm here. The man's a control freak and couldn't just let it go. Tony Khan needs to hire a couple of people. Scott D'Amore. Let him go. Let him do it. It's like back in the day when everybody's like, hire Paul Heyman. Let Paul Heyman fix this. When TNA had Dixie and like Dixie almost hired Paul. Paul said no because Dixie would not give him the capability to fire people.
And the rest is history.
Impact's still going, but Dixie and her family got out of it several years ago. If they hired Paul, it might have been a different story for a lot of people in a lot of things. Bloodline storyline certainly wouldn't have been what it is. Curtis Axel might not have been an Intercontinental Champion.
Brock Lesnar might not have come back to WWE, all we know.
So things happen for a reason, but you know, when you have talented people out there and you're too proud to relinquish control, quite honestly, I think that's the main problem. Like I said, I thought the beginning of AEW was really good television. Now, part of that could be said, and I think there's a lot of validity to this. Cody Rhodes was there.
I was going to say that.
Cody was there to stop them possibly from doing really stupid things. So,
Cody's, you know, it's funny because around WrestleMania time, Cody Rhodes had said that he had seen some things that he was like, this isn't the goal that we had set forth when we first started AEW. And there were certain things said by certain people backstage that he wasn't very thrilled about. And then Brandy came out and said pretty much the same thing. She kind of echoed his same feelings, and you could tell that there was some kind of rift backstage, whatever it was. They didn't like the direction that AEW was going in. His contract was expiring. WWE was desperately needing a big-time babyface, and the perfect time for the American Nightmare to return home, and it worked. Now here we are, a little more over 2 years after it all happened. Look at where AEW is. They're an absolute dumpster fire that collided with a train wreck and a shitstorm.
And the bus and Darby Allin.
And the bus with Darby Allin. And Cody Rhodes is now the biggest name in the biggest wrestling promotion in the world and is the biggest star in professional wrestling. After beating one of the greatest, ending one of the greatest reigns, Roman's reigns, and becoming the WWE undisputed, whatever it is, and it's not Universal anymore, the WWE champion, winning the championship his dad never got to hold, the son of the plumber. And this is what it is. I really do think, and all the people saying, oh, you know, Cody had to go. Cody was probably the only one that was keeping that thing afloat. And that was probably the problem, was because he was the only competent one. I'll give Kenny... Again, here we go. I'm actually going to compliment him again. Oh, this is not good.
Whoa. I'm writing it down. 7:55 on May 2nd, 2024. Go ahead.
Kenny Omega deserves the title of EVP more than those other two assholes. Because, yes, he might have created one of the worst wrestling video games ever put together, but at least he did it. At least he actually put forth and actually came up with a video game. What have the nutsacks done? Absolutely nothing. All they've done is just completely embarrass the industry of professional wrestling. They are an automatic ratings killer every single time they're on the TV. And it's not just me saying this. You go look at the numbers on WrestleNomics. Every Bucks segment has been one of, if not the worst rated segment on Dynamite or whatever other show that they are on.
Except for when they were in the retirement angle with Sting.
We're not going to count that because that's the power of Sting.
That was Sting.
Jay, you and I could have been in that tag team match, and we would have. Honestly, no. You and I could have been in that tag team match with Sting and Darby Allin, and would have gotten higher ratings than the fuckaroos. I'm just saying, Kenny has done what he has needed to do. Cody was actually succeeding as an EVP. My guess is that the ding-dongs, even though he won't admit it, didn't like the way that it was going, and they wanted to do the stupid Japanese New Japan bullshit style in AEW where there's, he wanted the rankings, nobody wanted the rankings. Let's just have it go, let's just have champions defend the title every single week. Because that doesn't water down the championship.
Well, I mean, having champion defend the title every week, that's what's supposed to be the TNT title. That's what's supposed to be the TBS title. There's supposed to be the quasi-TV title from back in the days of NWA and WCW.
Yes.
That is supposed to be the workhorse championship, just like the IC strap, just like the US title now in WWE. Now, back in the day, the US title in NWA, WCW, not so much. It was just the TV title. TV title was the title that was the workhorse championship, that was the one that I don't think was degraded by that. And when John Cena was the U.S. champion and had the U.S. Championship Open Challenge, that didn't degrade the championship. It really depends on the person and how the person projects that thing. Seth Rollins doing what he did with the new World Heavyweight Championship, if he had showed up as often as Roman Reigns, that thing would not have as much legitimacy as what Seth did to help make that. And I thought they did it in an interesting way. I loved what they did with him and Shinsuke Nakamura, where even though he beat Shinsuke, he felt like, oh, crap, this dude, no, I feel like he actually got one over on me. Even though I won, I don't feel like I won. And Nakamura was the one denying the challenge. I thought that was an interesting thing they did with it. But, you had Seth Franklin Rollins out there most weeks defending the title, trying to make it relevant. Now with Cody, let the dude have his flowers. He finally got the story done. And the question is out there, where do we go from here? All right, now we're coming to a point full circle. AJ Styles went against the son of a plumber 22 years ago in TNA for I think it was for the NWA title.
It was for the NWA championship.
And now here we are all these years later, AJ Styles, who is still performing at an incredibly high level, is going to be in the main event at a premium lineup event. By the way, it's the first one ever in France.
La Francois.
But I hear, I'm just throwing this out there, Hogan had actually pitched it to Vince back in the day that they should have done WrestleMania 3 in the French Alps, where Andre was from, so they could have gotten 100,000 people to show up, so he could have slammed the eighth wonder of the world off the tallest peak in Europe
and Andre's
and beaten him. But Vince said no. But that was the same year Hogan said that he didn't want to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania 3. So take all of that with a grain of salt. But these are the things I've heard. And these are not on any Hulk Hogan interviews that I've seen. But, it's just the word out there.
It'll be on my bingo card. It'll be on my second bingo card for the rest of 2024. Because I'm certain by 4th of July, I'm going to fill up that other one because it's Hulk Hogan. And the people who are complaining about it being Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles in the main event, why is it AJ Styles? Why are you going to cry? Why are you complaining
about
this?
It's the first time they've ever fought.
And they're fighting for the title. These are literally two of the best wrestlers on the planet. They're going to have a great match. Anybody who's not excited for this match, wear Young Bucks pajamas to bed.
What the problem is here, what we just saw last month was between Cody and Roman was a 1.5 year build. And if you want to be brutally honest, it was a 20-year build. How can anything live up to it after that? Cody and AJ are just going to go out there and put on, pardon the expression, a phenomenal match.
Ha! I see what you did there.
There's no way they're not going to have a good match. There's no way. Unless somebody gets injured in the match, there's no way it's not going to be a good match. Yes, you can't tell the same story that you told in a year and a half / 20 years in 1 month. But you could sit there and put a guy who you know is a top-level professional, and you could play into the fact that, oh, by the way, he faced Dusty Rhodes 22 years ago, and now he's facing his son.
And he's the only person in wrestling history that can actually say that they wrestled the father and the son for championship matches.
Yeah.
And he might actually be the only person that can actually say he wrestled both Cody and I could be wrong on that.
I don't remember if Dustin ever fought against Dusty.
No, and the only other person I could think of was, did Dusty Rhodes actually get in the ring with Randy Orton?
And I guess it's possible that Cody was in the ring with Ric Flair, although it probably was not one-on-one. It would have been like Legacy versus
Evolution.
Yeah, well,
I know they're the same. They're the guy.
Yeah, Randy Orton was in both, but Flair was still active when Legacy was going on.
Huh? I'd have to really think. I think that might be the only wrestler that has ever wrestled both of them. And yes, I'm going to use that term because if WWE's announcers and commentators can call them wrestlers, then the brainless one's no longer going to call them WWE superstars. These are wrestlers, and it feels good to say that they're wrestlers again. And honestly, I swear, he's the only person I could think of is Randy Orton because he's been doing this forever. And I know that Hulk Hogan has never wrestled Cody Rhodes. Although I'm sure he'd be like, yeah, brother, I don't know why they're saying it was AJ Styles. I remember when Dusty and I main evented the second ever Starrcade, brother. We tore the roof off the house, brother. And then Cody, I remember I came back and I put Cody over when we wrestled at SummerSlam 2006, brother. No, Hulk, that was Randy.
It's possible The Undertaker has been in the ring with both. Not for a title, but...
Technically, he wrestled Dusty Rhodes because Dusty Rhodes was part of that team with Coco Beware and the Hart Foundation the night The Undertaker debuted for WWF when the Brainless one... We're not going to talk about the Brainless one. The Brainless one...
He's gonna puke!
He's
gonna puke!
That was the night that it confirmed 34 years ago that I am indeed the Brainless one. But Dusty Rhodes was part of that team for that Survivor Series match where Kane the Undertaker came out. Eggman. I'm pretty sure, almost positive, I'm willing to bet any amount of money the Undertaker has gotten into the ring with Cody Rhodes in a wrestling capacity because Cody's been in, people forget how long Cody's been with WWE because he was there for 10 years. And
that was like 2006 to 2016 and then gone for 6 and then
came back for the last 2. But I'm telling you, I know that Randy Orton feuded with The Undertaker, and if during the time with Legacy, I'm sure that he had, his Ted DiBiase and his Cody Rhodes and his Manu. And I'm certain they all gotten involved. I'm pretty sure I'm almost willing to bet The Undertaker's the only other person I could think of. And I'm glad you thought of him. That's a good one, Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I could guarantee you this. The Undertaker definitely fought Dustin, too.
Right.
A bunch of times. Goldust.
And Goldust fought Roddy Piper while he was still alive and heard from him.
We can't even talk about that match. That match doesn't get talked about anymore because of all the horrible things that Roddy Piper said. Terrible. I still get a chuckle when I watch the match, though.
Yes,
because it's so outlandish and over the top. It's awesome.
Yeah, Piper ended up breaking his hand during that match.
Yeah,
great.
But I mean, we're talking about the whole Cody Rhodes thing and what direction they do now. after he's won the championship and finished his story? Well, they just had a draft, if that's what you want to call it. They should have just made 3 or 4 trades and just said, this is the draft.
It was so far the most boring piece of garbage I've seen. The only thing that was worth it was seeing the old timers come back to make the draft picks. Everything about this sucked. Now they say they aren't firming up these new rosters until Monday. There still could be some movement. There still could be some trades. What they need is Randy Orton to go heel and Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton to have at it for SummerSlam.
Here's the thing. WWE is at that point now where they don't do the whole heel and face thing. They could legitimately do Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes without Randy Orton turning heel. However, it definitely brings a much better element and avenue to the whole story if Randy Orton were to turn heel.
I mean, Randy Orton, quite honestly, has always just been Randy Orton. It's how much he turns it up. You know, when I go back to a few years ago when he was getting cheered despite the fact that he was doing like bad stuff. It wasn't until he put the screwdriver in Jeff Harvey's ear and like wound it up that the crowd's like, ooh, ooh, and finally like went against him. Finally went against him. Finally.
Are you kidding me? I haven't booed him since that night.
But like, he would have to do that level of stuff. But Randy Orton has always been like a tweener / cool heel. The people just want to cheer. Because again, I've said this so many times on the podcast. Randy Orton cannot fully become a heel unless he gets rid of the RKO. The crowd is so enamored by that move that anytime he does it, they're going to pop through the roof.
That's why I'm telling you this. I would rather the RKO stay and the heel not happen than have heel Randy Orton with no RKO. I'm sorry, Cousin Jay. You cannot have Randall Keith Orton without the most devastating finisher in professional wrestling, the most devastating 3 letters in all of wrestling, the RKO. Because that'd be like Hulk Hogan not having the leg drop. I don't care how minuscule and stupid that move is that you could actually think that you can beat somebody with a leg drop after a big boot.
Yes. You body slam them, you punch them several times, you body slam them, and you give them a big boot. And then you get pinned. That's just how you got pinned.
King Kong Bundy used to avalanche and splash his opponents. A literal walking condominium. Go crashing into you, into the turnbuckle, and then he jumps and lands on top of you with all 400 plus pounds of him. That's a finishing move. I know the DDT has been watered down by years, but Jake still delivered a DDT like nobody else could.
Thanks, John Cena.
Yes, thanks, John. Yes, thanks, John Cena, for no selling at SummerSlam 2010. But, like...
He will never be forgiven 100% for that for me.
No.
The Nexus could have been the next big thing after Brock Lesnar was the next big thing.
But the whole thing is, I really could see it, Jay. I really can see them turning Randy Orton heel. I'm just saying with the weight of WWE now, it's not a guarantee that they have to turn him heel to get that match. We're getting that match. There's no way in hell. I'm going to tell you right now, they penciled it in somewhere down the line because they know that's a money match. And that's a big money match. And they could tell a story with that. Because it seems like, you know, Cody Rhodes is freaking Dr. Seuss. And he's just got all these stories he's got to tell and finish up. Because if you think that Cody Rhodes is finished telling his story, no. He's finished telling that story.
And guess what? His story with Seth Rollins is not finished.
He still has a story with Seth Rollins. He still has a story. He's got a trilogy with Randy Orton. Let's be serious. They could go an entire year with those two, and it'd be compelling television for an entire year.
At some point, he's got one with CM Punk.
He's definitely got something with CM Punk. And honestly, LA Knight could turn heel himself, and he could go after the title.
Oh, by the way, he still has a story with Roman Reigns.
He still has a story with The Rock.
There are a lot of very good stories they could do with him. I'm sorry, you cannot build the same level of anticipation in 1 month that you did after all these years with what they've done in the past 18 months with the Bloodline storyline and all the things that went into that. But they have a lot of great stories they could do with him from now until then. And I'm going to say that I don't think Orton is going to get the WrestleMania match. I'm going to say probably CM Punk won't get the WrestleMania match. We still have Roman Reigns out there. We still have The Rock out there. For the next couple of years, that could be a match for Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, whether he has the title or not.
He's fighting CM Punk at WrestleMania. He's going to fight CM Punk at WrestleMania. Jade Cargill is going to be special guest timekeeper. Lexis King is going to be special guest enforcer. And Shawn Spears is going to be special guest referee. Am I forgetting any other former AEW stars that are doing much better in WWE now?
MJF? Oh, wait.
Not yet.
Wait.
I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Oh, Andrade. Forgot about Andrade because he's only high priced.
Yeah.
Oh. But Jay, talk about an anticlimactic. That was what the draft was. It was anticlimactic. I was so turned off by the whole thing when WWE basically traded Braun Breaker to Raw for Nia Jax. I was
glad to see that T-Bar is getting another shot at retribution on the main roster.
And there won't be any slapjack this time. Nailed it.
Got Dragunov going up to the main roster. You know, quite honestly, the biggest moves were the ones where it was NXT going up. But it's disappointing to, like, I was thinking maybe we get some, like, mid-high level people that go down to NXT. And that, at least for now, has not been the case.
I love the fact that Apollo Crews and Odyssey Jones were both drafted, and neither one of them has been on Raw over the last year. You don't get to choose Roman Reigns. He gets to opt out, but Apollo Crews gets drafted. Jeez, I didn't know. There was a point where I didn't know if I was watching the WWE draft or I was watching the Jets draft room.
Yeah.
Fuck the Jets. But I will say this. I, being the ultimate pessimist, especially when it comes to professional wrestling, I took the high road. And by that, I wanted to, mention a few things. I like the fact that Bianca.
I thought you were going to talk about a bong.
No, unfortunately. I like the fact that they did that Bianca was the first pick in SmackDown. That's a good thing for them. They're continuing to present her as one of the biggest stars in the women's division, and they are backing the right person to do it with. She is a tremendous star. She is a great role model. I loved it. There was parts about the draft I liked. I liked the fact that Braun Strowman came out and had that confrontation with Logan Paul, and I love the fact that they used Patrick Mahomes for it. There was aspects of it I liked, and then there were things I was like, okay, no.
The draft itself sucked, but there were aspects that they did within it that were like pretty interesting.
Like you said, with the legends coming out and doing all that stuff.
Damn.
But it did get me to think before the podcast and how I can turn this draft into a positive, Cousin Jay.
Okay.
So I decided that for this week's list, for the top 10, I am going to give you the top 10 things I, the Brainless one, would like to see happen now that the WWE draft is over. Number 10, one of the underlying storylines that I really enjoyed about Monday Night Raw was Chelsea Green and her interactions with Adam Pearce. It was such compelling television. And the fact that he worked out a deal with Nick Aldis to get Aldis to take her to SmackDown. I am now fully vested in the Chelsea Green, Nick Aldis storyline going forward. I want to see where that goes.
Okay.
Number 9, give me DIY versus the Street Profits. That's all I have to say because that match is going to be amazing. Number 8, speaking of matches I want to see, give me Logan Paul versus Braun Strowman. I want to see him Gronk Spike Logan Paul at some point between now and the Marquee Awards so that Braun Strowman can win my Superstar of the Year.
It would be great if something like that happened at SummerSlam.
Yes. Number 7.
LeBron James.
Number 7, you have a chance and an opportunity to utilize one of these young stars in a way that they could be a bigger star on your show. And I would really like for that person to be Carmelo Hayes. And I hope the WWE showcases him, that he is the actual talent that you know, the projections were when he was first coming in. This is a young, talented kid. And he got a match with Cody Rhodes last week.
Yeah. And he was drafted in the second round?
He was drafted in the
second
round.
pick?
He was a high pick. I'm going to say this. You got a good one in him. I've watched a lot of NXT. I've watched a lot of his matches. He reminds me so much, and I cannot believe I'm saying this. He reminds me so much of Shawn Michaels. He's got everything.
Like Johnny Gargano?
Not like Johnny Gargano. This Johnny, as Cornette would say, not Johnny No Face or No Expression, whatever it is. Carmelo Hayes is the total package. His biggest issue is that he's not very tall. He's very athletic. He is a great performer. He is great on the microphone. He is a total 5-tool athlete. They need to utilize this kid because they got a special one in him, and I like to see him get that opportunity on SmackDown. And I'm saying this because I know from experience as a fan of WWE how they've handled some of these call-ups over the years, and I don't want to see them make the same mistakes with him that they've made with others in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 6. Now we're going to get into the meat of this. Give me Pete Dunne, Gunther, and Dragunov in a triple threat match. I don't care who wins. Give them an hour long. Let it be an Iron Man match that finishes in a no contest. I'm still going to enjoy every single second of that hour-long ass whooping that those three are going to give each other. So give me that as a triple threat match. Give it to me at Clash of the Castle. You ain't got nothing else being booked for that. Give me Gunther, Butch, and frickin' Dragunov. I'm in.
Well, it's going to be Drew McIntyre and his new sword, too, but
yes,
we'll get
that's
to that
it.
in a minute.
Number 5, give me Braun Breaker getting more than 2 minutes for his wrestling matches. They're comparing him to Goldberg. That's not good. That's good and terrible.
Yeah.
Number 4, speaking of Gunther should be the next challenger for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's a lot less cluttered now on Monday Night Raw after that draft. SmackDown's kind of stacked at the top. Hate to say it. CM Punk's not going to be back for at least a few more weeks, maybe a couple more months. Drew McIntyre. Just saying, you need somebody. Gunther winning the King of the Ring would be a good step for him before he becomes World Heavyweight Champion. And he will be World Heavyweight Champion by the time they get to WrestleMania 41. Number 3, this is only because it's me, and this is I want stupidity, and I love funny shit. Number 3, on SmackDown next Friday, the first SmackDown when the rosters kick in, I need R-Truth and The Miz to show up. Because I need R-Truth to not realize that they were not drafted to SmackDown, but he thinks that they were drafted to SmackDown, and they show up anyway. Just because I need that kind of exchange, because it's something that R-Truth would do. I don't know why I'm giving away free WWE booking ideas on our podcast when I know WWE is going to steal it anyway.
My bad, dog.
This is something, though, that I would love. Even if they did steal us, that's what I need. I need that. I need R-Truth to show up on SmackDown next Friday and go, oh, my bad. I didn't realize we were drafted to SmackDown. Guess I'll see you guys on Nitro on Monday.
Hey, I'm here outside the arena, and there's nobody here.
In Austria. Number 2, I think you know where I'm going with this one. Number 2, now that we realized that the Intercontinental title is not changing shows, and neither is a GOAT on that show, just give me my Sheamus winning the Intercontinental title. just so I can have my Wrestler of the Year all wrapped up as soon as it happens. I can put a giant bow on it, take my mark out moment, just give him all the marquee awards. Sheamus is going to look like Owen Hart jumping around with freaking 2 marquies in his hands. Just give me what I want. I want Sheamus being the super duper ultra Grand Slam champion, and you can't tell me otherwise.
No.
And the number one thing, if that was 10 through 2, if you had to venture a guess of what I want is the number one thing now that the draft is over. And I'll give you a hint. It was something that we have talked about just recently on the podcast.
I don't know.
Give me Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. Now that the draft is over, now that Cody is officially a SmackDown star, and he is officially a SmackDown
Superstar.
And Randy Orton was one of the top picks for SmackDown because I would have drafted him first overall. Who am I kidding? Now the seeds have been planted. The story has been told. Let's finish this one. But I'm going to tell you this much. Randy fights Cody Rhodes. I'm not going to be surprised if Randy takes the title from him. If I'm being brutally honest, Cousin Jay.
Yeah?
Randy Orton is going... Well, no, he's not going to do it because Charlotte's going to surpass it by then.
Yes, even though he's injured for another 6 months.
Which is interesting, Cousin Jay, that you mentioned that. Because it was brought to my attention that not only is Charlotte Flair in France right now, she is not alone with somebody else who was not announced for the show in France.
Andrade?
No. Well, he might have been, probably. I mean, apparently there's pictures. I've seen a lot of people posting pictures online saying this individual is there. But I'm going to tell you this much. On all those pictures, I have not seen him once. So I can't tell you whether or not I've seen him there in France. It's very possible that he's there. I just need physical proof. But I just can't see him. So the question I have to ask you is this, Cousin Jay. Why are Charlotte Flair and John Cena in France for the impending show? This was asked, by the way, by Chris Brown before the show. He had pitched this to me, and I said, this is something I wanted to save for the podcast that we have this discussion.
Sure.
John Cena, Charlotte Flair, both in France ahead of the pay-per-view. Thoughts?
At this point, it sounds like Charlotte's injury was extremely severe. And, she would be out for, not the short end of the injury that she sustained. I mean, it feels like she might be there for PR. She might be there for an in-ring thing, similar to your friend Kenny last night. Doing some sort of scenario in the ring.
Sorry, my bad.
John Cena right now, he's doing the beginning of the long road to the end where he said, hey, I'm not going to wrestle when I'm, after I turn 50. He's got about 3 years. So if he's not in the middle of shooting a movie right now and he wants to sit there and do some PR for WWE, all right.
So we shouldn't.
He'll make an appearance of some sort, whether or not he's going to get physically involved like he did at WrestleMania.
Ooh, I know what he's going to do. He's going to throw a water bottle at Tama Tonga.
Well, I mean, he should be doing that at Roman Reigns.
Well, Roman Reigns isn't going to be there, so Tama Tonga is the new guy. So he's kind of got to, deliver his message.
He's got to wear the wet hair.
If Roman's not there, I mean, does this mean he's already got it, right? I don't have to worry about him not winning the wettest hair marquee, correct?
I mean, he's already appeared for several months of this year with hair as it is.
So as long as he doesn't come back with no hair, he wins the marquee award this year.
I mean that. Yeah,
it's important stuff. It's the most important marquee award now. So,
Yes.
But,
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how you can bring John Cena into this equation and it's only 5 matches. I could see one of those things that they want to do the Waller effect, and him and the Fiend mask want to go and showcase their tag team titles, and then John Cena comes out for that. Yeah, I could see that. I don't know if I see Cena coming out and getting involved in any way, shape, or form this weekend, unless he comes out
and
and
QR code been drafted.
Somebody came up with this theory that it's because at one point somebody froze it and got the screen grab and what it showed on the thing, and it was U E. It was either URDN. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting somebody else. Oh, G51A. So everyone thinks that the U is Uncle Howdy, the E or the R is Eric Rowan, because Captain Wedgie just officially re-signed this week. Can't wait to get our second ever stairs match, Cousin Jay.
Yes.
Because that's in the cards. Apparently, the D is for Dexter Loomis. The N is for Nikki Cross. The J or the G is for Joe Gacy. All people that basically fit into the whole mold of Bray Wyatt at some point. 5 of them plus 1, and that 1 is A, so they're thinking it's Alexa Bliss. So It would be Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, Eric Rowan, Dexter Loomis, Joe Gacy, and Uncle Howdy.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it'd be better if they had Braun Strowman as part of that, but
I do too.
And there I don't think Braun would be against being in that.
And there you go. You bring Braun Strowman to AEW with Captain Cupcake, so it's the 3 of them, and it's the 2 of them with Cassius Ohno and Vince Neil.
I mean, they would have to bring Otis too.
There you go. Oh yes, the 5 of them in catering in AEW. Shad Khan would be cutting off Tony after about a month. I can't afford this anymore, Tony. Well, I told you that the wrestlers are expensive. Thanks, Dad. That the wrestlers are expensive. I'm not talking about the wrestlers' salaries. I'm talking about the catering bill. You should not have brought in the Otis Dosevich. He just Doseviches everything in sight.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we did mention that Eric Rowan signed. Somebody else this week has signed, or actually re-signed.
Yeah.
As the final boss posted on Instagram, Drew McIntyre has finally signed his new contract with WWE. Thoughts?
There were bits of time about, I think, like a year ago where it's, I think I was pretty certain. I'm like, where else is he going to go? Like, AEW is not going to be it for him. And then there was that bit of time where certainly it sounded like there was some friction, some turmoil between him and management. But I think the dastardly Voldemort still had something going on with the company. Now that he's gone, it feels... If he was going to do anything, he was going to take time off and come back. Well, the fact that he hyperextended his elbow and, kind of is getting a little bit of time off. Hey, you got your time off so you could be with your family, heal up, and get ready to troll like you troll. I think it's great. Otherwise, why would they have done the stuff that they did with CM Punk? Why would they have done the other things they did with him just to have a whole bunch of things lingering out there that were never finished? He's been a top tier dude almost since the day he came back. He became NXT champion in 6 months, 7 months after he got back. And he held that title, twice? And then he went up to the main roster and won the heavyweight championship a couple times and has been involved in many main event feuds and is doing his best work of his life right now.
He deserves it.
He does.
He's been busting his ass. He is, like you said, he's in his best run right now. He's doing his best character work. I've enjoyed Drew McIntyre. This was a no-brainer for me.
They just need to bring back Broken Dreams. Now, if they're not going to bring it back immediately, they need to bring it back when he feuds against CM Punk.
Yes.
That way he could just go on and on about Broken Dreams of CM Punk because he did not get the main event WrestleMania because of me, Drew McIntyre. I took his spot and I won the match he was going to have.
In the lead off of night 2. Oh, that's just too funny. But that was such a good move by them. I'm sorry, this was a good move. And
now he's got New Angela.
And New Angela. Angela. I just and it's good because you're right. Why would they do this stuff with him and CM Punk and then just let him leave and then there'd be no, tying of the end of that story? It's like, why would anybody do something like that? It's not like they ever had somebody do like a kick to somebody on television and then 2 days later release them.
Right.
Where there's no payoff to it. And then the guy goes and becomes a bigger star in AEW.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of. Still like to see him back. Of all the people in AEW, I'd like to see him back the most.
Yeah.
Aleister Black. Sorry. But this is good for Drew. I'm glad that they did this, and I'm glad WWE is going to keep him for a while because he's a hell of a performer for them.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did talk about the Rock and apparently he had told Drew, hey, I'm going to give this thing to you if you re-sign, and it was the sword, but talked about being a man of his word and blah, 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 blah. There was a lot of bad press for The Rock this week about things allegedly he did, whether it be movie sets or WrestleMania or other things. Now, there were some things out there. I didn't see too much about him arriving late for WrestleMania, but he pretty quickly ended up putting out like a picture showing him, during rehearsals, getting ready for WrestleMania. There were things out there saying, yeah, he was there hours before he was supposed to be. I believe that. I think it's interesting for the movies. They were saying he was showing up several hours late on movie sets when that allegedly was the biggest thing in the craw of The Rock when he was doing Fast and Furious movies, that Vin Diesel was showing up late to the set and wasn't ready when he got to the set.
Mm-hmm.
Why would The Rock do the same damn thing as Vin Diesel? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I know also, though, that The Rock has 57 projects going on simultaneously, whether it's a football league, whether it's wrestling, whether it's his 37th movie of the year that he's in, the TV show that he's in, the film production company he has. He's got too much going on. He needs to do less. There are stories out there. Out there that he took out the people's strudel and was not going to the bathroom in an actual facility. He actually had a container, and then they would take the people's pee and dispose of it, which apparently grossed some of his co-workers out, allegedly. That, of all the things, that's the thing I think I believe the most. That he is so busy that, let me just take the Brahma Bull out right now, and I'm just going to relieve myself in this specially made bottle that we're going to turn into Prime Energy, and I'm going to make a bunch of money with Logan Paul here, and that makes sense more to me than the other stuff because, again, If The Rock had such a problem with Vin Diesel showing up late to the set, why would he then go and start doing the same crap? And if it was such a big deal of what went on allegedly during the movie that he did with Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot, they're doing a sequel.
I'm just.
The people strudel thing was the most disturbing thing, but yet at the same time
come on.
felt like the most plausible.
That's the most disturbing after we just talked about how Hulk Hogan and Terry Bollea have different penis sizes. So
I'm just talking about of The Rock.
We're
of The Rock. I'm not talking
okay.
about that. I'm not talking about Janelle Grant. I'm not talking about Hillbilly Heroin. I'm not talking about any of the other things out there that could be more disgusting than that. But sorry, Cousin Bobby. I hit you at the wrong moment with that.
That's what Sensational Sherry said. When she got the Hillbilly Heroin. I don't know why that phrase just makes me chuckle. I don't know what it is about Hillbilly Heroin. But I'm like, why is it so much? But yeah. I'm going to say this. It's just crazy to me how all of this stuff has just magically started coming out about the final boss, painting him in such a not so great picture ever since he said he was not going to endorse a certain somebody for re-election as president. I just find it just a coincidence. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because that is the one thing that I've noticed. Because, like, if this was going on for years, if this was a problem, why wasn't it coming out before? Why is it now just magically making its rounds?
Right.
It's either that or Meltzer's leaking the shit. And I wouldn't put it past him either.
He got it from the Bucks.
Yes, exactly. But I agree with you. That is, of all the things, him peeing in the bottle and letting somebody dispose of it is the most, it sounds like the most accurate of all the things that he could be doing. Him showing up late would be silly if that is, like you said, what he was complaining about with Vin Diesel. And they would not be doing a sequel with Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot if Dwayne was that much of a problem. He's not Ronda Rousey.
Right.
So I stand by my final boss.
Yeah.
Well, that's all of my notes. Do you have anything else, Cousin Jay?
The last thing I'd like to get into is one Nick Khan. It was towards the end of our show last week. It did come out, breaking news, that Nick Khan was putting all his shares in TKO stock up for sale. That does not mean the man's leaving the company necessarily. It just means he might want some liquid cash on hand. I'm sure he gets paid quite well for doing what he does. He sure got a crap ton of money when the merger happened. But there are some people that live the high life and they spend up the wazoo. So maybe he needs some actual physical cash, or maybe he's just like, hey man, I just want to work the company. I don't want to be invested in the company. I'm good with where I'm at.
Or he could just use the money for another project.
Yep.
Nick Khan is, a lot of people don't realize how savvy and smart Nick Khan really is. And I still remember how years ago they were trying to paint this picture that Nick Khan was the bad guy. Like, oh, all this bad stuff's happened after Nick Khan. No, we were looking at the wrong bad guy. His name is now the Dastardly Voldemort. So, yeah. But hey, I don't really pay no mind to it because, like you said, he's not like he's leaving the company. And it would make a lot of sense if he was going to take out that kind of money and he was going to start in like another side project or build something up. I could see that. Because you don't know what they could be doing. He could be financing some kind of like other WWE project or another project of his own. Let the man do what he wants to do.
Let the man have his money.
Pay the man his money.
And one last little thing I do want to announce, and actually it's not that much of a little thing. One of our former favorites from WWE, the former Charlie Caruso, became the first woman ever to be an in-ring announcer at UFC. The person that was supposed to be there to do it was not a Bruce Buffer thing, but the person who was there to announce was ill, and they needed somebody to fill in on the spot. And they said that Charlie did a great job, and she's going to do it more in the future. So good on Charlie. I think it's Arnold, her real last name, but the former Charlie Caruso. Good on you. Keep doing it, Charlie.
This was better than when the Greg Gutfeld show had 50% WWE people when it was her and the Funkasaurus.
Yes.
But good on you. That's incredible that you were the first one to do it, and I'm glad you're going to get into it because you're actually, you're one of the few I actually do miss from WWE because you're actually really good at your job. You and Barbara Walters herself, Renee Paquette.
Yes. All right. You want to do some Backlash predictions?
Let's do some Backlash predictions.
All right.
All right. Let's start with the throwaway. Well, not really the throw. There's not really much of a throwaway match on here. Well, let's just start it with the women's tag team match. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus
Lock of the weekend.
I agree.
Lock of the weekend. Jade and Bianca are leaving with those tag team titles.
I agree 100% with you. Bayley defends the women's WWE Championship against Naomi and Tiffy Stratton in a triple threat match.
I think it's too early after the story they just told to take the title off Bayley. I can see a little bit of a thing in my brain where they might want to do Tiffy time. I think it's too early. I'm going to go with Bayley in this match.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to say this is where they do it because everybody's there. It's going to be that swerve that nobody's going to expect, and Tiffy's going to win it. Otherwise, you and I are probably going to agree completely on this card.
Yeah.
All right. I can't believe I wrote it this way. RKO versus the Bloodline.
Quite honestly, this was the one that I probably had the hardest time figuring out. Because you don't want to bring in and have like a new bloodline and have them lose. But if they lost to the Cupcake Eater of Worlds and Randy Orton, there's no shame in that. All that being said, I'm going to go with the Bloodline, and I'm wondering if we've got a debuting Jacob Fatu that makes this a victory for the Bloodline. But I think they have to win.
I do too.
I think. Again, it's not the end of the world if they lose, but like you have now evolved this into something new for the time being. And unless the storyline going forward is they become losers without Roman Reigns, and then Roman comes back and whips them into shape. But I don't think they'll do that because, again, like that would put them down lower on the card, make them less relevant. I think the way forward is Jacob Fatu showing up, and the Bloodline wins.
And Kevin Owens eats the pinfall.
And the cupcake.
Speaking of members of the Fatu family, Jey Uso versus Damian Priest. World Heavyweight title.
I'm gonna go with Priest winning this match. I don't think Priest is going to be a long-term champion, but I think they'll at least give him a win. And I think he wins here against Jey Uso. But I'm gonna say before SummerSlam, he probably does not have that title.
Wouldn't surprise me if he was the one who lost it to the Money in the Bank winner this time.
Could be.
And last and certainly not least, Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles in what's probably going to be an amazing match and probably the best match of the year for WWE.
My only pause with this match, Cody is leaving with the title. if they want to continue this and have it be like a DQ, if they want to have it be a count out, they could do something like that. If they're not ready to pull the trigger on the next opponent for Cody. If they want to make this more personal and make it a bigger deal, they can, because I would not be upset to see AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes on multiple pay-per-views. You know, they've got the show in Germany next month.
Yep.
I wouldn't be upset seeing that. But Cody's leaving with the title, and I'll say he actually wins. I'm going to say he actually wins this match, pins AJ Styles.
I agree. And what's going to be a great match, too. I cannot wait. I'm excited for that match on Saturday.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's our predictions. I guess that means there's only one thing left to do.
Yeah.
It is time for our good,
Our bad.
and our brainless.
Tim's saying, what's up? Timmy, how you doing? He's going with Damian Priest. He's going with Cody Rhodes. Yeah.
All right, Cousin Jay, what do you got for your good this week?
Hulk Hogan. Thank you, Hulkster, for being the gift that keeps on giving. You are like the Energizer Bunny of lying. If you were Pinocchio, your nose would be all the way to Pluto right now. And right now, Joe Biden would be looking to you and not sure whether or not it was Thursday or Pluto or Hulk Hogan's nose.
And I'll tell you right now, the two people on this planet would be absolutely envious of a nose like that if Hulk Hogan had it. Number 2 is Tony Khan, and number 1 is Michael Hayes.
I thought you were going to say Triple H, but...
No, because Triple H wishes he had a smaller nose, not a bigger one.
Okay.
That's a good one. I like that one. I'm going with Adam Pearce.
Okay.
Adam Pearce wearing the suit during the draft that was kind of paying homage to Jim Cornette. I loved it. It was a great look. Adam Pearce has been somebody I've been a fan of for a few years now. I think he's been killing it. He worked with Jim Cornette when they were in Ring of Honor together. So I'm kind of glad that he was able to go out there and show his appreciation to Jim Cornette. Because not everything Cornette says and does is bad, people.
Very true.
So I'm going to give it to Adam Pearce for paying homage to the leader of the cult of Cornette.
All right.
What do you got for your bad?
Darby Allin versus Bus. Darby, whether or not you believe in there is a higher entity, please, for the love of God, take this as a sign. Do not go up Mount Everest. You broke your foot, and now a bus ran into you, and you didn't even mean it to. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Darby Allin getting hit by a bus is my bad this week, without him trying.
I'm going with the WWE draft.
Okay.
This is that bad. I that's the best way to put it. I would love to give it my brainless, but you know, as long as there are certain entities in this world, I'm gonna promise you this: there will always be a guarantee, almost guaranteed to be a brainless every week. But I had to get a WWE draft because that was so anticlimactic. I miss the olden days when they used to do the draft where one show would fight for the pick, two shows would fight for the pick, and the winning show would get the draft pick, and then they do the randomizer. I miss that. I miss when the rosters used to change like that. I missed it because it was a lot more fun. Now it's just like, and again, don't get me wrong, I love seeing the legends. I popped, when the Dudleys came out. I popped when JBL and Brett and Fedor came out. Damn, love seeing Ron Simmons. I enjoyed that part of it. I just think that the draft has really just kind of been lackluster because of the fact that they've done it this way and it's stupid.
Tim, Darby did bump for the bus, but he also no-sold it by still going to the show after he was hit. So I don't know if he's keeping kayfabe alive by, going to the show despite having a broken foot and getting hit by a bus.
It just sounds so stupid. Like, it's not believable that like a wrestler just got hit by a bus and then went to a concert after. Yeah, I'm fine. Darby, you can't even see out of your eye. I'm fine. It's like hanging on your shoulder. It's good. I'm here. Hey, great music, guys. What's the matter, guys? You guys don't look at Shawn Michaels this way. And what is your brainless for this week?
I mean, I'm going with the WWE draft. As much as there were good moments with like Braun Strowman, you had like so much potential. I like the fact that, hey, let's make it so the champions stay on the show that they're on and not deal with the bullcrap we did with Becky and Charlotte a couple of years ago.
Thanks a lot, Charlotte.
And switching titles, because again, it would have been silly if Cody Rhodes had won the title that he had waited his whole life for, and then he and Damian Priest get traded and they have to trade titles. And now he's wearing the title that is not the title that's important to the story that he was trying to tell. That would have been silly. I like that. But like quite literally, they like did not have any big moves where it's like going, ooh, shocker, never saw that one coming. I'm glad that they switched this person to this show. There were no like moves like that where I'm like, ooh. Honestly, the biggest moves, to me, the most important ones were the NXT guys.
Right.
Everybody else, it was like, eh.
See, I like the DIY going to SmackDown just because I know that SmackDown always does much better when it comes to booking the tag teams. And I like Braun Breaker going from SmackDown to Raw because as long as the Bloodline and Cody Rhodes are on SmackDown and there's only 2 hours of SmackDown, he's not going to get the time that he's going to need to showcase
45 minutes of entrances.
Exactly. So him going to Raw where there's just a black hole of just nonsense. They can carve out 8 or 9 minutes for him so they can stop comparing him to Goldberg. And I'm going to tell you right now, Patrick Mahomes saved the draft from being my brainless this week. That's why it was my bad. Because Mahomes and all that, even with Logan Paul and R-Truth, I'm fine. And with, Braun Strowman and Jey Uso, the lineman, I loved all that. That's why the draft got my bad. But as long as a certain entity called AEW fans exist, they will forever be my brainless. And I really don't want to get into it because I don't want this to be a long-winded explanation once again of why I can't. I'm giving it to them. You defend everything that Tony Khan does. This is the same guy who called an entire company Harvey Weinstein. Not the owner, not saying Vince McMahon was Harvey Weinstein. The whole company was Harvey Weinstein. And then your fans are defending this man. I'd love to see how you guys are going to counteract Patrick Mahomes, 3-time Super Bowl champion. Because there's been more Super Bowl champions to show up on Raw than there's been Super Bowl champions to show up on Dynamite. And you had your entire franchise there.
Yeah.
I am sorry. I can't do it anymore. I cannot fathom how these people can justify the way that they talk and they act. And it's like, you are the reason why AEW will never grow because they cater to the dipshits like you who look at this shit where a guy's wrestling 9-year-old Chinese girls, blow up dolls and sticking his finger up dudes' butts while another guy is sticking skewers in his head and blowing up the ring. And oh, by the way, they're your top flight tag team, the Team Marty Jannetty, who all they do is super kick and have exploding sneakers, who I was told, even though I said that they're not main eventers, well, they're a tag team. Yeah, no shit, because they both suck so much as singles competitors, they have to keep blowing each other for the last 20 years to be relevant in professional wrestling. And guess what? They're still not relevant.
You talk about them a lot.
The AEW, because I'm the only one that does. Because I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of arguing with these people about these fucking guys. They're the worst thing about professional wrestling. I tell you right now, if they quit or worse, and I'm not going to say worse, and they just disappeared off the planet, I'd start watching AEW every single week. Just like that. I'd still let I would still let Herb Abrams book the AEW the way he's been doing, and just go with it. As long as those two fucking scumbags aren't there, I'd watch every single week, all 2 hours. Don't care.
And you would tape and play back every Jungle Boy segment.
Oh, he's part of that too. It's those three. But then again, I'm gonna get a time machine and I'm gonna give a condom to Luke Perry.
Luke,
do yourself.
Luke, trust me.
You got to do one of two things.
Trust me. You don't want to say, "I am your father."
Luke, you got to do one of two things. You either got to put it on your own dick, or you just got to put it over your son's head after he is born. Either way, you just got to put that thing on a dick. Anyway, if you like what you've seen, whether you are a first-time watcher or a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS. That is such a great segue. We are the Effing Marks, and if you like, follow and subscribe to us. We will do the same back. It has always been our
mantra. Make sure you set up notifications so that when we are live, you will be notified that we are live, and you can tune in on the X, on the YouTubes, and on the Facebooks. So you could chime in and join in the community and chat about our favorite sport we all love to hate, professional wrestling. Also, wrestling. Make sure you subscribe to us on the Spotify, so you can take the show on the road with you and enjoy the banter, the fun, and it all. Yeah.
Yeah? I love to say the banter of a competent human being and a lunatic. That is what the Effing Marks are.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Tim in the chat said maybe Vince has a dildo named after Jack Perry.
The dildo's bigger than Jack Perry. Just ask Dino Man.
Bigger than Marco Stunt.
That's not saying much, Jay. But I guess that's it, right? We've covered all the bases. We did some Backlash predictions. We did a good, bad, and brainless. I talked shit about the Bucks. This is a great episode. I think I touched everything and no.
Wait.
Are you upset, Curtis Axel? I am a little upset. They're coming in with a Wyatt 6, and I'm not the 6th. I'm maybe 7 or 8. Well, it's unfortunate that they are the Wyatt 6, and you're just the 7th man out. But you know what you are not out of, Curtis Axel? I do. That's because today, May 2nd of 2024, at an astonishing 3,385 days, I, Effing Mark Hall of Famer Curtis Axel, am still not out of the 2015 Royal Rumble.
Bow, 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 bow. You didn't brainless one this week.
I caught myself, and luckily AEW fans made it so I didn't have to give myself my brainless once again.
Yeah.
So there we go. Thanks, Jay.
You're welcome.
You spoke it into existence. Anyway, so for episode 358 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the Effing Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
I'm clearly brainless. The brainless.
Yeah.
One. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.
Enjoy the Backlash.
Yeah.
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 Yeah.